We will make electricity so cheap that only the rich will burn candles. Thomas Edison said that. Can you believe that? Thomas Edison, one of the richest men of his era. Not only rich, but a genius. Honestly, I really compare Edison and I know this is going to be controversial, just to hear me out. I compare Edison to Elon Musk. And regardless of what you think about Musk's politics or his blustery attitude and the things he says and does, Elon Musk takes part in his inventions. And they aren't his inventions, but he takes part in the development process of technology. He doesn't invent them outright. Like, I think there's enough evidence to really indicate that Edison didn't wholeheartedly invent most of the things that he's given credit for inventing. Sound familiar? That does not mean that the man was not a genius or that he wasn't a great businessman, because he was all those things. Savvy and, just a smart businessman. But he wasn't a saint. And his companies didn't all live happily ever after. Trust me, I used to work for one of them. Obviously, he had been long gone when I worked there. He did create all these companies, all these technologies, and I say create. It's complicated, right? Complicated. Did he create them? I don't really think he created most of the technologies. He was involved with them, like he was the figurehead at the front of the line there. He would have been the guy that got up on, behind the podium and did the speaking, right? Musk, kind of the same way. Elon is involved in the day-to-day operation. He was involved in the creation of PayPal, pretty involved, and actually involved in some of the developing technologies at Tesla. Like, my understanding is he's pretty hands-on. Definitely hands-on with some of the rockets. He just knows that it's more important to let the experts do their job. And I think that's what Edison did. Although, if you look into how Edison kind of swindled Nikola Tesla and some of the things that he did with him, not so great. Not so great. But other than that, the man was a futurist. He was forward-thinking. He didn't want electricity to be unattainable by anybody. He wanted it to be within reach of everyone. And so the vlog yesterday was about the hotel. It was about Bellefonte, kind of being a jewel of central Pennsylvania in many ways. A lot of that had to do with the mines, the furnaces, the industry. But there are people that were involved in that hotel that picked Bellefonte for specific reasons. Now, let's talk a little bit about Edison and the electricity. Bellefonte wasn't the only place that he used his new 3-wire technology, and it wasn't even the first place. Actually, there's ample evidence to indicate that happened east of Bellefonte. Did you see that? I don't know if you saw that out my window. I was driving like 73, 74 in the 65. Just got passed by a state police. Guess he decided not to pull me over today. I mean, honestly, they typically let you go unless you're above a certain threshold. Anyways, back to Edison. Edison actually started the 3-wire electric experiment elsewhere. He actually wired Sunbury, and there's some evidence that that was one of the first places. New York City was definitely the first. But as far as a rural area to prove the concept, you had Sunbury, and I think there's some evidence that maybe you had Shamokin, which is in that general area, and maybe Williamsport. All that before Bellefonte. So maybe. I don't think there's enough evidence to indicate whether Williamsport was in that mix or not. But Williamsport was definitely one of the towns that was very early on, much like Bellefonte. So all of those things happened before that World's Fair in Buffalo. And the Electric City in Buffalo was really the thing that impressed people about electricity and convinced them that it was doable for central planning in a city, and could be a daily part, a regular part of our lives. So you're talking like 1880 to 1884 this all happened in that general era. And Edison chose those small towns. The other towns that were east, Williamsport, heavy logging town. Shamokin, and it is morning, by the way, on Thursday for me, Friday for you. And I'm driving up a mountain and looking out kind of off a cliff on my way to work, looking at a beautiful sunrise. And I mean, that was gorgeous looking. And it's gonna be a beautiful day today. It's supposed to drop temperature wise tonight, but man, beautiful day. Anyways, Amelia Earhart, let's get into that a little bit. Amelia Earhart spent quite a bit of time in Bellefonte. Apparently, she really liked Bellefonte. On her famous transcontinental flight, she actually used Bellefonte and Bellefonte Airport as her final stop before flying the whole way to California. I'm not really sure why that is. She really liked to stay at the Bush House. There's actually articles and websites out there put out by various people in the area and beyond that have written about Amelia Earhart's love for Bellefonte. I haven't really dug into that yet, but I think it's going to make a really interesting vlog. Like, I've just skimmed the surface of this whole thing. There's a lot of information about it. There's not a lot of pictures of her because, you know, at the time, it's not like there were photographers everywhere. Although, especially, and maybe that's why she liked Bellefonte, because she could maintain a little bit of anonymity there. Here out in the frontier, kind of, well, I guess at that time I wouldn't consider Bellefonte the frontier, but in Bellefonte you could maintain a little bit of anonymity, which is probably why a lot of the government workings of Pennsylvania got done there and stayed out of Harrisburg. What is the thing with aviation in Bellefonte? Bellefonte was transitioning industry from iron and furnace work and timber to aviation because of its elevation. At that era, these mountains, portion of the Appalachian Mountains, the Alleghenies, were considered dangerous. Like, they literally called these pilots the Suicide Club for a reason, because only they were daring enough to fly into the Alleghenies. And keep in mind, planes in that era did not get to the elevation, to the height that they get now. They were fairly low flying, and you really had to be careful in the planes of that era to get to those elevations, particularly when you're talking about flying around mountains. So Amelia Earhart was one of those daredevils, one of those people who took that risk. Obviously, we know that because of what happened to her. The story of Henry Ford and Firestone, or whatever the guy's name was that I mentioned, the tire guy, they actually set out on a coast-to-coast kind of marketing thing together. The entire concept was taking little picnics and going on what resembled little family vacations. So they actually crossed the country, Henry Ford and Firestone, to promote their brands together, and would stop in different places and take promotional pictures and things like that, send out postcards and other promotional materials after taking their pictures. And one of those stops on those promotional outings was Bellefonte and the Bush House. It sounds like they might have been there more than once. That hotel, it didn't just have a story that had to do with the development of electric. Even though it wasn't, Bellefonte wasn't the first place to have electric, even in a rural community, the story was told because I believe it was the first hotel of that scale to have electric, at least in the rural areas. And I don't think that was by accident. I'm pretty sure that the elite people at the time, there was rail that went right through. The train station is right there, 50 yards away. Rail was right there on the other side of the mill. It makes sense that would be on the path from, say, a place like New York City, where a lot of the wealthy people lived. People like Edison, people like Henry Ford, people like that probably had passed through Bellefonte on trains, and maybe even stopped and got off and looked around and maybe did things within that area, or they knew people that did. Because again, the Bush House was a place where the elite could stay. It was a beautiful hotel and a beautiful town in the middle of nowhere. For someone like Edison, I'm sure that fascinated him. And Henry Ford was a similar kind of cat. He liked the hardworking, blue-collar types. So that's my explanation for the vlog yesterday. I want to make sure that the information is there, that there's not a miscommunication about Bellefonte being the first rural area, the first area that had electricity. It definitely was not. It was not. That was more or less about the Bush House. I will say that there were other places that were wired, and when the lights went on at the Bush House for the first time, there's some information that indicates that there was a light placed on the Veterans Bridge right there by Talleyrand Park, and there was some electric run up by the old courthouse that we saw earlier in the week. All right, so with that said, this is Friday for you. It's Thursday morning for me. I hope your week went awesome. I hope that you took care of yourself. You did something for yourself. You brought a smile to your own face. And you're leaving this week healthy. I'm not going to say wealthy, because, that just doesn't happen in a week unless you win the lottery. But healthy and wise and feeling good about yourself and your surroundings. We had a good week. Kind of all went in a blur, didn't it? So this weekend, I may be doing a Sunday vlog. Not really sure what I'm going to do. I'm going to Bellefonte this weekend, and then I'm going to the movies to see Hail Mary with a friend, and I may vlog the Bellefonte trip. I don't know, it's kind of up to him. We haven't hung out for a while, so I'd really like to concentrate on our time together. But some of the historical stuff in Bellefonte I'd like to cover, but we'll see. You may get a Walt Disney World vlog. You may get, from last year, by the way, recorded last year. You may get a Fort Wilderness from Walt Disney World vlog. A POV of horseback riding from the little girls, or you may get a history vlog from Bellefonte, a Gilded Age video next week. It'll be Easter weekend next weekend, not this weekend, and I'm going on an adventure with Mrs. Rat, so prepare for that. An adventure I have to fly to. It's a weekend adventure, a weekend excursion over Easter weekend. Yes, I will take you folks along with me. So get ready for that. It's coming. And then, maybe another little adventure the weekend after that with a friend and myself. All right, so that's a preview. You will see on Saturday some type of theme park POV video. I can't tell you what yet because I don't know myself. I've got some exciting adventures coming up. I want to take you guys along. You get to be a part of it. Only you don't have to pay for it. It's completely free for you. If it's free, it's for me. One of my favorite sayings. Okay, I'm gonna go. I gotta go into work. I just wanted to say thank you again. We made it through the week. I felt like it was a pretty good week. Better than last week, in my opinion. I hope you have an awesome weekend. Take care of yourselves. Spend time with your family and your friends, your loved ones, your pets. And I will see you this weekend, Saturday, hopefully, and Sunday. Hope you tune in. POV and vlog. And I'll be back Monday. Dreams, grass, churros.